Dude, let me show you something that's cool.
What do you got?
I got this thing. You talk about, what the vibes are, like how people are feeling,
Do,
right?
do I know what the
Yeah, I
vibes are?
know. Look, I understand that you're still like
Wow.
you're trying to keep up with me on this stuff. I understand. Okay.
Oh man. Go
Uh,
ahead.
yeah. So today it's August 13th at Common Power CP3D. Let me show you this thing from
That's right. We're back. Classic CP3D. The one that not David Donkey Daily, but Douglas Donkey Daily.
this is
What do you
this is
what do you
this
got?
is this is an overtime hundreds of thousands of surveys that have been done by Navigator, which is a great
Crazy. This
progressive
is
survey
crazy.
organization. And this is just among Democrats, people who self-identify as Democrats, and it tracks like feelings that they've had, people have,
Yeah.
and it goes back a year to summer of 2023. And blue has always been the top feeling, hopeful. It has always been the most, but you could see how scared was slowly creeping. It has been creeping up for some
Yeah.
time, right?
hmm And
Um,
hopeful was falling
and
around
hopeful
June and July, like more and more.
was starting to fall. But then Biden exits, Harris arrives and ascends, and now hopeful is 2-1, the most common emotion that people report. Um, and out of all these emotions that are listed here, I guess these are the ones that people have a chance to say, like, which one of these would you pick? Um, the most of these are negative: scared, depressed, overwhelmed,
Yeah.
unsure, angry, ambivalent. And the only two
Two.
that have gone up are the
Hopeful and
positives.
excited. Yeah.
Exactly. Hopeful and excited. And so that's the kind of shift that we're in the middle of. All right.
Yeah.
That we're
It
in the
was a
middle of.
night and day switch. Complete it was a complete one day it was something and another day it was a whole other thing.
Right. That's not a gradual increase for hopeful and
No,
excited, right?
that's like it's a jolt to the system. It was funny because I was invited in to talk to this one of our partner organizations. All voting is local. And initially, when I talked to I think she's the executive director. Um, Earlier this year, she was like, "Can you come and give my people some hope?"
Oh, I remember this. You were telling me about them. Yeah.
Yeah, she's like, "Can you come and give us some hope?" And it was, it was always it's been scheduled way out of the future. And so I knew this was coming, and I was like, I know exactly what I'm going to say. It's the same thing we've been saying for months, actually, and people are asking what's going on with the young people are disengaged. Are we going to get, black people to vote? And what's going on with the folks in the middle? And, all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, it's completely different. So they wrote me, they're like, hey, you're planning to come. And I was like, well, what am I going to talk about? Because we don't need hope anymore. People are excited. People are super, super fired up. So it ended up being more about the origin of the organization and about how we even get all these people to fly out from mostly Seattle to all over the country.
Yeah. So what I'd love to do here on this, and you're back from Wisconsin, back in Seattle for a bit of time, a couple of days at least, before you go to Chicago for the Democratic National Convention.
Yep.
Um, we have on our fieldwork calendar several teams kicking off their autumn work. Tomorrow, Arizona, and then the next day, Thursday, I think New York and California.
Let me just clock this. You use the word autumn because you don't like fall and the negative connotation for the word fall. Is that what it is? As a communications professor?
Autumn has greater clarity of meaning to people. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So here
yeah.
I'm going to show this because this is the fieldwork page.
Yes, yes.
You all have built an incredible fieldwork page. You've been Puya, Maria,
This is the calendar.
Jessica. So today's the 13th. Nothing kicking off today, but tomorrow, Arizona, Nevada.
Mhm.
Then Thursday, we got California and Team New York. Then
Yeah,
next week you got Team Wisconsin. you got a volunteer training 103 on Monday. And then we have these things called regional meetings that start later next week.
Yeah.
So these are all big kind of like ways that we do
Yeah. So
field
the
work at teams.
Yeah, so the teams are the classic way that we've always organized since the very beginning. Um, Regions allow us to
Classic
be
Coke, man.
more
Classic Coke. Classic.
classic. That's that's right. That's right. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And we have had to fix fieldwork over the years.
Yep.
But teams, groups of people organized around states, easy to understand immediately. Easy to wrap I mean, elections start and stop at the boundaries of a state. Those are things that people make a lot of sense. So we organize around states. And then electorally, obviously, for the presidency is this big deal. Like the electoral votes for a state are, this big defining way to organize. So teams that are organized around states. Regions are a new thing for this year that give us an opportunity to do a few things, which is, gather all the people on one side of the country all together. So maybe a volunteer will travel from one place to another. Another thing it does, it allows us to take really talented team leads and have their influence spread across more teams. So it's really about scale. So when we talk about like how do we do things now different than what we've done at the origin of the organization, what you see now are more of these pieces that help us to scale up, that don't
Yeah. Yeah.
require
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
really high manual touch by everybody in the system, and allow us to take the people that exemplify the principles of CP the most, the people who understand the community and the work the most, and allow them to influence as many people as possible.
Yeah. So we just had our staff meeting about an hour and a half ago, and Maria Jimenez shared that we had, I don't know, 70 or 80 people at our intro to field work.
Oh, it was like 90. It was like
Okay.
90 something. Yeah,
Intro
yeah,
to field work. And
yeah.
and then it was Ellie Hernandez, one of our contractors who was leading it, along with one of
Oh,
our
Jenny.
oh, Jenny was okay,
Yep, yep.
was leading it along with Whitney Cornell, one of our volunteers,
Yeah,
right? So they're leading this intro to fieldwork volunteering thing. That is an instance of the ability to scale.
yeah.
We have a person who is part of our system, but is not a full-time employee. All right,
Hmm.
contributes a lot. And then we have a volunteer who are doing
Yep.
that intro. And that ability to scale is what makes us ready for all the Vote Save America people that are coming our way.
Hmm.
And it also allows us uh, to kind of invite all of these educators and Action Academy people
Right.
who all say who kind of show up at a certain time and say, "I'm now ready to join the team. I'm now ready to be part of this." Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So we've created like layers of volunteer leaders. There's also, Whitney and Jenny did it tonight, but there's a schedule where different volunteers will rotate through.
Okay.
And Jenny carries a bunch of that. But now we've also got Action Academy students that are coming in, and they're going to start to work these trainings as well. So, yeah, we've got a structure that allows for ebb and flow and kind of smaller bite-sized responsibilities for people who say like, hey, I like volunteering, but I want a little bit more. And it also allows us to have this, again, diverse range show up. Jenny is this young Latinx um, organizer with us, and then Wendy is an older white woman, and the two of them together show the range of common power, or at least like one slice of it.
Yeah, and Whitney's gone on trips with us. She did a learning tour with us. So like people are like engaged at different levels then too.
Yeah, yeah,
So this is the point in the movie, right? In this episode where like it suddenly flashes back to like 7 years earlier. Okay, seven
yeah.
years earlier, we're like, and it says on the screen 2018. Okay,
Hmm.
in 2018. And so if for everybody who what has been with us since then, or people who've arrived since then, what would you say are the one or two things that absolutely still present from 2018 and how we did fieldwork to today. They're like core pieces. They're still there. And what would you say are one or two things that are just fundamentally new or renewed today?
Um, I think that so the like I said before, the team structure around states is going to be really familiar to people. Folks who organize with us, pre-pandemic are going to go, I want to join team Wisconsin or something, right? So that's gonna be familiar. I would say also one of the things that was baked into the DNA in the beginning was that you had younger people leading. Um, and and that I think we've done a better job at that. I think
Yeah,
they're more
yeah.
diverse now. It's also not just young people. We make it an effort to make sure that it's like folks working across difference. Like it's not just that you do whatever the young diverse people say. It's that you actually show that you're working with them in partnership and allyship. Um, I think that the this major piece that we picked up during COVID was virtual. It was the ability to scale virtually, and we didn't set it down. So we were an organization that if you wanted to join us in the beginning, you had to come to Washington Hall, right? Or what's the rock climbing place over in your neck of the woods?
Mountaineers.
The Mountaineers Club. Oh my gosh. You had to go to these places and only be in person.
Yeah.
And that was the only way you could do it. And we handed out pieces of paper that told you what to do and stuff. So now you just open up your phone and you go to this Zoom event and you get onboarded. And then there's multiple steps. It's not just a one giant thing. And then you're buying your tickets and you're traveling. Now it's just this, it's a slow on ramp. It is more deliberate. Each of the trainings is specific to something you need to know as you ramp up into understanding common power and then understanding travel and then doing the travel piece. And it's completely virtual. So and it's not just for Seattle because of that, right? So it's built because we've got people in New York, in California, in Georgia, actually, shockingly, right? We got a lot of people in Georgia. And so who the community is this much more broad definition. And who the tools that we use to bring all those community members in is more virtual and more available. So I think that's one of the big things. It's interesting because we get emails now into our inbox and people are like, your website's great, but I just want to talk to somebody. you know, and the website is great, but also people are still looking for the old school touch that used to be there back in the day.
Yeah. Well, here's a couple of thoughts I have, and you can tell me
Yeah.
if you think I'm correct or not correct. So in the beginning in 2018, when this organization was starting, each of the teams, state-based teams, was uh, making it up as they went. Okay, making it
Yeah.
up as we went. You and I remember having meetings with team leads and in like homes or places, and we're like, "What is Michigan doing, Ron?" Okay, and Charles, what are you guys doing in Wisconsin?
Yeah. I was a
Okay,
team lead for Wisconsin, and the way
right,
I did it was completely different than the way other people did it. Yeah.
right. So every team kind of had like their their ability to be a free agent of their own, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I was so yeah, that's right. And so for mine, uh like so much of how I ran my team became how everybody else now how we run ours. Because before some teams would vote on things. Like there was just somebody who would convene everybody but that person wouldn't make the decisions. They would vote. And on mine, I was like, I am a dictator.
Right. Well, I want to talk about that a little bit. So it is the every team gets to do it their own way is a wonderful, quaint kind of like neighborhood model. All right.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah,
oh,
it's early Trump years, you know?
it's yeah, it's like, oh, in Fremont they do it this way, and then
Yeah,
over in
yeah, yeah.
Ballard they do it that way, right?
Yeah.
But uh and so it was funny because team people in the teams would have tremendous like feelings about
Mm-hmm.
the way their team would do it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we know we've ended up talking to some of these people who are like, Team Florida does it this way. All right. And
Mm-hmm.
don't you all try to tell us to do it a different way. All right.
Yeah, that's right.
And
Yep.
you in Wisconsin, you know, you kind of created the mafia, the Wisconsin mafia, and you know, and so it was quaint and kind of enjoyable at one level. It was like everybody
Mhm.
was a part of the recipe, a part of the cook.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't remember when exactly it was, if it was COVID or if it was actually after, it was actually 2020, and those two just happened to be there at the same time. Where you said we are going to centralize our team creation process. Okay, we
Mm-hmm.
need people to have. There needs to be a set of practices that are common across all of these teams.
Yeah.
We need to have staff who are full time owning the guidance and the
Mm-hmm.
direction of this. And you said, you know, we're gonna need to bring it in internally, and you're the one that really turned that around, and it took a couple of years. And I
Oh yeah.
want to I want to dive into this for a minute. I'm kind of feeling like Ezra Klein right here. I want to dive into this for just a minute.
Yeah, man,
So,
you're our Ezra. You really are.
okay, thanks, man. Ezra's the one who a year ago said Joe Biden can't win.
That's right.
Okay.
He did. He called it, man. Was it February he wrote that article or he did the podcast or something?
And
Yep.
I listened to him on his podcast today, and I'm like, how does he not just like every single podcast stand up and
First,
say,
I'd like to
I'm
start this episode by saying, I told you so. Okay.
and like, how can he not just embed it in every question? Well,
Yeah.
some didn't think that Joe Biden would be able, okay. Uh, so, but it took us a couple of years to
Yeah.
kind of work through the fundamentals. And there were differences of opinion among
Yeah.
staff about how to do that, and volunteers, and some left Common Power because they weren't happy
Yes.
with the way it went. So I'm actually trying to pull it back the veil just a little bit to talk
Totally.
about
Yeah.
that for everybody. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, so the like there's an evolution because it doesn't all just come from like having this light bulb go off and be like, this is how it should go. It comes from trying things. So 2018, I was the team lead, team captain, right? Because we have all these military references,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
That's it's because of you,
Lieutenants and everything.
you know.
Okay.
But the Team Wisconsin became notorious. Well, first because for me, I was like, in order for this to be efficient for me, I was like, I have to make calls. And so I said that in the most see, we are in our quest for a more perfect democracy. This is the most perfect dictatorship. That's what I told them. That was one of like principles. And I was like, so we're gonna talk, but I'm gonna make these calls and then we're gonna move. That's what I told people. You do not get to just argue with me endlessly. We got work to do. And so that was one principle. And then in the fall, for work, I was launching this app for Starbucks,
Uh-huh.
our website. I was redoing our whole e-commerce website. And so I was like, I cannot lead this team without your help. And so what I need to do is I need to form a leadership team. And so it wasn't just me. I was like, I can't, either I form a leadership team and I hand some of this stuff off to you guys or I quit. And a bunch of really cool people, Carrie George is one of them, stood up. Frida was another one. All these go-to Steve and Mary and Sarah, like they were like, okay, we'll take that on for you. And so I formed a leadership team. And this was again, like I remember other volunteer leads were like, what are you doing? And I remember you and I were kind of like, just one person's in charge. And so Charles has himself, plus he's got a leadership team under, he's like organizing his own little mini organization inside. But what I realized was like, it's too much for one person. It requires cooperation. And then that's when I started looking at the benefits of working across different at the leadership level of volunteers. And so that's when we start to pull those things in. Um, Post COVID and say this is how it's going to be. It's going to be standardized. The team leads are going to be they're going to call the shots. The volunteers are going to do what they say, and it should be this diverse mix of people
Uh-huh.
who are doing this thing together in order for it to be sustainable across states. Also, because volunteers were telling us when I go to this state, they're using Excel spreadsheets and phone calls, and over here it's all on paper and over here, like the volunteers, in order to be
Yeah.
a volunteer and move from team to team, they had to learn a new way of working every time they moved. And so
Yeah.
people wouldn't
Yeah.
move. And it also meant that we couldn't tell you how our team would show up on the ground, how well
Mm.
prepared people would
Hmm.
be,
Hmm.
the rules too. Like, if you let every team lead choose, then you cannot go to a partner organization and say, this is how it's going to be.
Yeah, I can't imagine
So,
that through
yeah,
COVID. Like some teams might have said it's cool,
right.
mask or don't mask, whatever, right? And
Right, right. So we had to standardize things in order for the thing that we're promising to volunteers to be true. And you know how big I am on this, man. It's like if we're gonna go out and sell the organization to volunteers, and build relationships around the country and say, this is what we're gonna deliver, this is who we are, then we have to be able to like be deliver that. We got to deliver that. And so part of that fight to build a system to put younger people in charge, actually we actually had to we had to fold some teams and then restart them later under like the new design. It was an interesting kind of struggle, but I mean, now that we're around that corner, it feels like it was completely worth it and it was the right move.
absolutely. Yeah, it totally was the right move. And also you and Ben and Puya and Maria and Jessica have built this incredible uh multi-state, 14 states. Is that what we got going right now? 14
14 and
states.
counting, man. Yeah,
Uh
we're gonna go to
for
Georgia and we're gonna go to Omaha.
and that that's not a state, man. It's not a state. Okay.
It is that exact, but you know what? Electorally, it basically is. Okay.
Okay. Um th- Sidebar, Laura Ingram, a conservative talk show host, like 4 days ago said something like, look, I know Minnesota better than anybody. Look, I've
Oh
been
my
to
gosh.
Milwaukee a bunch, all right? And
Gosh.
wrong state, wrong
They are
state.
hilarious.
Okay, so I love that point about like if you're on Team Georgia and you're feeling like I want to work for Tester, John Tester in Montana in 2024. Um, and that shift from Georgia in 2022 with Warnock to West Tester in 2024 is not like an unheard of shift for
Right.
one of our volunteers because they want to go where the action is. Like they want to go where the
Hmm.
place are. It, in order to do that, you have to have a continuity of experience that makes sense to people. But what makes a Starbucks or any chain work is that
Right.
people know what they're going to get basically when they go
Yeah.
into it, right? They know what they're going to
Yeah.
get.
Well, in order for us to have something as simple as training, how do we have training, one training path, if the experience is this diffused thing once you actually get into the team? No, there has to be a single truth about what the volunteer experience is going to be. Yeah.
Okay, and I want to bring it to this point now for the last part of this episode, to talk about things that are definitively uh, definitively true about Common Powers Fieldwork. Okay, definitively
Okay.
true. Like these are the things that when I'm out asking people for money, I can say, like I know. Like if they drill down, they're gonna find this. It's there. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's each see if we can do at least a couple of these. What's your first thing that you would say is definitively true about our field work?
You know what the first thing that comes to mind is? This is for the audience that's listening to this. Because I get confronted with this all the time. And I hope this doesn't throw you off too much and you got your thing that you're gonna say next. The first thing is that David Domke does not run field work. Okay, David Domke doesn't do field work, he doesn't plan it, he's not a part of the system that is built. This is entirely built by a team of people, um, three of which just graduated from college or
Yeah.
or an advanced degree June of last year. And they were kind of shaped in the fire of field work when we all jumped in halfway through the year in 2021 to kind of right the ship, to your point about pulling into this new version of I'm sorry, 2022. this new version of Fieldwork. It was me and a bunch of them. And I grabbed them and I said, we got to reinvent Fieldwork. Let's all go. And we jumped into the field and we did it and we reinvented it live while we were out there. And this new version is all the things we learned in 2022. But I think it's important for people to understand like where the lanes are, and
Yeah.
also that everything, as awesome as you are and as visible as you are, you are our Ezra Klein. Ezra Klein is not doing investigative journalism. Ezra Klein is not interviewing people in, Appalachia. Ezra Klein is telling stories on his podcast, and he's doing some really great writing and some analysis, but he's not leading out in the field. We have an entire group of people leading out in the field on their own. And we also have this other thing going on in Action Academy. We have hundreds of Gen Zers that are being trained right now, not by me and not by David. And they're being trained by, in Action Academy in Larcy's place. We have a bunch of educators that are
Mhm.
this like glue in our system between generations. And let me tell you, they show up big out in the field because they're educators. They know how to move people. They know how to lead debrief times. They know how to be patient with volunteers. They're one of the most prized volunteer leads that we have. And that's not led by me or David or Larcy. It's led by Terry. And so there are these distinct areas of CP that we all own and pay the contribute to the most. Um, and it's this very like diverse tapestry of leaders across the entire organization. So I want to, that is one truth. That's a great piece. We all contribute, but we all lead very different parts.
Yeah, that the yeah, I love that you said that because people don't ask me, please, how field work works. Okay. Because this is the like as a professor, like you learn to make up answers. Okay. And so I'll just be like, yeah, North Carolina team's doing it this way. So don't put me in that ethical quandary, okay? Because I literally don't have any major drive on what field work does. I contribute
Yeah.
in our discussions about what states to work in, okay?
Hmm.
But I'm not there. And that's part of the reason why when I do talk about field work with people when I'm out raising money, I love that the quality of the product is so good
Yeah.
because I can say this is amazing and I didn't do it. I'm not selling
Hmm.
my product here. Okay. So that's definitively true without a doubt. Another thing that I think is definitively true is that we never do this by ourselves. Okay, that
I love
you
that.
never ask a volunteer or a team lead or a partner organization or anybody to do this by themselves. You say we will come together and we will work together and we will do this together, and that's the only way forward. And you know, I think that that experience is part of that's a defining element of what makes the way we do field work.
Yeah, I love that. And because of that, that is a part of the mindset piece that we control, right? Where we don't think we have
Uh-huh.
all the answers, and we trust our partner organizations on the ground. And that's why we can do something like work with the Wisconsin Democrats and then work with Power to the Polls and have vastly different priorities at the doors and talk tracks. And our volunteers are like, we're cool. Okay. We don't have to know everything about this. We trust you. We trust you. Um, I would say, uh, I mean, just going back to what I said, I think one of the things that is definitive about this is the richness of the pipeline.
Hmm.
We have gotten so dang good at making sure that when you hit the
Hmm.
ground as a volunteer, it is not just about knocking the doors. It's not just about the thing that we hope to accomplish. It's the how that matters at CP. We need to win these elections. We need to get these people elected. We need to get Kamala elected. Those are things that have to happen. And also, at the same time, the way that we do it together needs to be in community. It needs to be partially led by young, diverse people. It needs to be with older people, older white people. It needs to be all of us all together across 5, 6 generations now. We're claiming Gen Alpha too, man.
Okay.
We're having a bunch of kids come out with us all the time. The educators
Mm,
are bringing their kids. Luke brought his son to Wisconsin, and back in Virginia, I brought my 4-year-old daughter, and Jordan brought his daughter. So we're bringing in Gen Alpha, but we that's what you're gonna get in the field because of these great pipelines from the institute and the academy. Because that is a principle that we lean in on, because we use the dollars we get from our donors to pay these people who wouldn't otherwise be able to volunteer with us. When you hit the ground, you're going to have a human experience, not just at the doors, but with your team that is maybe unlike any you've ever experienced.
mm. Okay. Okay. I got one. So we are definitively strategic in the
Mm,
states and the races that we work in. We are very, very thoughtful about where we go and why we go to these campaigns and which partners we work with. And I believe that part of what we owe to our volunteers and deliver definitively is a careful selection of what races to compete in.
yeah.
Okay. And if we are in an election where sometimes it doesn't automatically be apparent to somebody, like, why are we working here? There are reasons. There are reasons. And I think that when there's social change happening, um, it often can feel like it's either happening organically or it's happening by luck.
Mm,
And that's one of the great misnomers of how social progress has been made in the fight
mhm,
for civil rights, racial justice in this country, is that it wasn't by luck or by chance or by just organically occurring. It was because of careful preparation and strategy that people were able to march in certain places, to push on certain levers, to
mhm,
deliver certain messages, to go to certain places. And I mean, I think a great example of this is that, Rosa Parks wasn't the first person
yeah.
to refuse to give up her seat on a bus. There were many, many, many more before her. But when it happened with her, it was the moment and there was a strategy involved. And so they were ready to go. All
Yeah, she
right.
was an organizer. She was
She
an
was an
organizer.
organizer, right? She'd
And
been
there was
the
also,
NAACP in
yeah, and there was
Alabama.
also like there was a tactic, like when you don't get up from the bus, these are the things that'll happen when that happens. We'll bring the media, we'll the campaign will spin up, like all these things. Yeah.
And they strategically crafted her image as
Yep.
this seamstress, quiet Christian woman. All right. They
Hmm.
strategically crafted it that way because they knew it would leverage ethically in people's minds. All right. So one of the things that I feel great about is that when we ask our volunteers to devote time or treasure, they can know with certainty that we will be strategic stewards of it.
Yeah, I like that a lot. um what do you think the last thing is? And this is good. What is something that people who were with us last presidential cycle and haven't been
2020.
around, right? Or even before that, what people who volunteered in person with us before the pandemic and now they're back, what is something that they're going to experience that is going to be um that's going to be different in a big way? I think one of the things that you'll see is is I think that before we were hyper focused on just the thing right in front of us. And what you'll see in how we spend our time on the ground, right? Like you have these educational elements. One of the great things about having educators again is that we talked about redlining
Mm.
in Wisconsin just now, the trip I just came from in Milwaukee. We talked about redlining and segregation in Milwaukee as a part of how you get to this massive divide of wealth and this massive voter divide in Milwaukee and the suburbs. Um, the young leaders that we're training that seem like sometimes may seem like why is that person in charge? They seem like they don't know what's going on, or the way that we defer to our partners on the ground, the things that we say where it's not just like doom and gloom and we got to get out the vote because if this one doesn't do it, it's going to all burn down. It is actually our vision is beyond just this moment. Everything that we talk about, the way we work, the speed that we move at, the consideration for each other in the space out there, it's not just like go, 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 hit it hard, leave it out in the field. It's actually, look at this beautiful thing we built together. Look what it's doing now, and look what it's going to do in the future. You know, you look at some of these young leaders, and you look at some of these partnerships we have, and you're like, this is built to last. This isn't built because we need Kamala to win, or because we needed Joe Biden to win, or because we needed to defeat Trump. This is because we need this to last, because we need a John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. And once we get that, then we need to compete in Florida and Mississippi and Alabama and Tennessee and try to get them the same rights we have in Washington State. Like, that's not just one election or two or three or whatever fighting. That's maybe our generation's work. So I think that's a difference that you're going to see out in the field, is you'll see something that feels like it's an evergreen system that's going to be here, and it's not going to, it'll feel like a place for you to hang your hat maybe, and not just a place for you to show up once. I think that's the major difference.
Yeah, I'll see what you think about this word you're going to use here. I think that organizational frameworks that you're talking about here, to me, leads me to put the word institution on
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
on what CP is. Okay, when we've met
Hmm.
with Dr. Bernard Lafayette, right hand person to Dr. King and a mentor and a leader to us, he talks
Yeah,
about the importance of institutionalizing
he
change.
does. Yeah, a
Okay,
lot. Yeah.
like he said the biggest mistake he says that they made in the civil rights movement is they did not educationally institutionalize the gains that they had. They made
Hmm.
the law changes, but they did not get it into the educational systems in such a way where,
Mm.
so he's always talking about, you guys are, what you're doing is you're institutionalizing, which to me is making permanent, right? It's making him
Yes.
long term. And so to me, that's the biggest thing, that if someone was here in 2018 or 2020 and then left the country for X amount of time and came back at this time and said, I want to get back involved with you. I think when you show up, you'd say, this is familiar. This is familiar. I recognize this. This all feels right. And they would also say, like, ha, I am totally in a system now, right? We use the word
Hmm.
system. I am
Hmm.
totally in a system, an institutionalized system that is bigger than me, bigger than the leadership that's standing in front of me right now.
Hmm.
And that just allows everybody to just work, to
Yeah.
just work. All right. And that may be a loss in some people's minds, because they're like,
Mhm.
wow, that's really, that's solidified, and it's cemented in a certain way. But to me, it is that cementing, that solidification that has given us our impact that we have,
Yeah.
the confidence to put a young person in here and know that they're going to make it. Okay.
Hmm.
And to everybody, it's just knows where they're going and what they're going to do. And so to me, that institutionalization of our field work is really, really what makes it possible to go long term and also ensures impact right now. And it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
not there. It was not
No.
there before.
No, no, it was not. It was not. And it also includes the people that don't organically come to this space. You know, I think that's the other thing, is that, you know, the amount of filters you got to pass through to get to this and to say, like, yes, I can do this. It's a lot, and some of them are thick. And now, because we can offer people stability, you know, the expectations are understood, the impact is going to be is there. I think we get a lot more diverse range of people who are like, I'm in for this. I'm in. There's
Yeah.
a place for me there. Yeah.
So, folks,
Cool.
come join us. Team Kickoff, Arizona on Wednesday, Nevada on Wednesday, New York and California on Thursday, Wisconsin on Monday. We're ready to go. And then we're going to
Yeah.
fold into regions right after that. Like,
Yeah.
really, it started. The convention is here next week. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, join up. And you know, if you don't come for any other reason, come because you miss people. Because there's some cool people I've seen come back that haven't been here in years. And I'm like, this is enough to have people want to come on this trip, just to hang out with each other again, man. Come for the work, stay for the people.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks for the time. Thanks for the energy. We'll catch
All
you
right.
tomorrow. All right.
See you tomorrow. Bye.